Hello and welcome to another Small Gold live stream. Today is Sunday night, December 23rd, 2018. And tonight's topic, bill would change legal status of social media companies from platforms to publishers. We're going to discuss the implications and go through what that might mean for Twitter, Facebook, Google, and others. But first, let's take a look at the gold and silver markets. They've reopened, and gold is up a little bit, $3 to $12.5860. Silver also up just a little bit, up 3 cents to $14.62. Now let's take that against the backdrop of the equity markets. The Dow and the S&P are down significantly on the week, and in fact, it was the biggest weekly drop in the Dow since October 2008, and the biggest weekly drop in the S&P since August 2011. The current futures, you can't read much into them at this point, but they reflect pretty much a flat open to up slightly. Over on the crypto side, we have Bitcoin pretty much flat at $39.44. Bitcoin Cash at $195.95. That's pretty much flat as well. Ethereum up about 10% to $130. Litecoin up about 4% to $33.08, $33.08. And Ethereum Classic just under $5 at $4.87. And that is at down about up about 4%. All right, let's look at some of the news of the day before we get into our topic. Got a number of polls for you and some news. So let's take a look at what we have. Let's take a look at the polls first, given that we're talking about the market and the direction of the market. And now we've seen significant corrections in both the equity markets, and of course, we've seen very significant corrections in the cryptocurrency markets, while we're seeing a bit of a rise up in the gold and other markets, the silver markets. But I also want to show you, I just took a chart out and I can't find it. Let me show you let me pull it back up here. I have the Dow gold ratio, which is now starting to cross. So you'll want to take a look at that. Let me just pull it up again. Somehow I got lost, but I will get it back and you'll have it. And then I want to go through 2 polls that we took, that if the stock market fell 60-80%, how long do you think it would take for it to return or regain at least half of its value? And that is a, oh, there it is. It's there. I don't have to copy it again. To regain half of its value. So let's take a look what you guys said in the poll on that. So on the Twitter poll, I asked if the Dow had fallen, or the stock market had fallen, here's your chart, 60-80%, how long might it take to recover half of its losses? Many of you felt it wouldn't. 45% thought it would take 5 years. If you had that type of a fall, that it would be significant. Few people thought that, I'm sorry, these are the Twitter results. These are not you guys. This is not the YouTube results. The Twitter people thought, the Twitter followers of Small Gold thought 45% said it would not come back for 5 years. Only 6% thought you'd regain half of your losses in 6 months. 14% said you'd get them back in 6 months, not get them back, get half of it back, 6 months to 2 years, and 35% said 2 to 5 years. So what we're really seeing here is very much pessimism that if we get a big drop in the stock market, I'm talking not a 10%, 20% drop, but a real drop, that would probably crush the market, it looks like, according to the people on Twitter. So only about 20% think that you'd gain half your money back in less than 2 years. Now let's see what the people on YouTube thought with the Dow, because let's see, stock market poll, YouTube, here we go. And you guys are no more optimistic. In fact, none of you thought that the stock market would come back halfway in 6 months, and less than 20% thought it would come back in 6 months to 2 years. So pretty much the same results on the Small Gold Twitter followers and the Small Gold game changers on YouTube, that if you had this type of 60 to 80% drop, it might be game over for a while. It'd be quite a game changer if you had that 60% drop, and only less than 20% on both polls thought you'd get half your money back in less than 2 years. Let's go over to Bitcoin. Now, we actually have had a 60 to 80 point drop in Bitcoin, and let's see what the people on Twitter thought if we have a 60 to 80 point drop. I guess we're there. What do they think will happen? Will we get half of those losses back within 6 months, 6 months to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, or will we never get them back? All right, so the small gold Twitter followers, they think that almost 20% think you might get that back in less than 6 months. 31% said you'd get it back in less than 2 years. 15% said 2 to 5 years, and 37% said forget about it. You're not getting that back for 5 years, and you may never get it back. However, that means that 31, 41, about 48%, almost half of the people believe that Bitcoin will rebound and get back half of its losses within 2 years. That is the small gold Twitter people. Now, the small gold YouTube game changers, let's see what you guys think about the possibility of Bitcoin regaining half of its value after that 80% drop. 45% of you believe that Bitcoin will regain half of its losses within the next 2 years. 15% thought it might happen within 6 months. Now, for that to be the case, I guess you're talking about, we could do the math very quickly. If you went down 80%, so we went down from 20,000 to, let's say, 3,200, and that is a drop of 16,800. And if you wanted to get in between there, you'd have to be getting up in around between 3 and 8. You'd have to be getting $7,000-$8,000 for that to be the case. And 37% of you said ain't gonna happen, not gonna happen, not even halfway gonna happen within 5 years to never. So it's interesting. There is a mentality that if the stock market really takes a dive, it's real serious. Whereas if Bitcoin takes a big dive, it's serious, but there seems to be more, I guess, optimism or a chance that it might come back. And that's probably because it's happened in the past. They've had these big drops. We never really had an 80% drop in the stock market or 60% drop. I think we had a 54% fall in 2008 or 9. And although it did recover relatively quickly, I'd say not within 2 years, but 3 to 4, it certainly did. All right, let's take a look now at our gold, Dow gold ratio. Now, it had been above 20 for a while, and the lowest we've seen in the past few years is down around 12, and that was in 2016. So let's take a look at that chart now. But I think I'm still surprised that gold and silver have not moved up as much as they have. They're really just slowly plodding up over the past month. The Dow has lost 10% since December 1st, and gold is not really ratcheted higher. But there you see it. It looks like the yellow line and the black line are going to intersect. That is just the gold price reaching close to over 1250, and that's the Dow coming down to in the 22,000 range. But the important number is the blue line below, and you can see the Dow gold ratio is 18.21. A lot of people say when it gets into single digits is when you want to sell your gold. It means that gold is overvalued compared to the Dow. But we haven't really been there in quite some time. And as you can see, it hit a peak of over 22 earlier this year in the summer, when it looked like the Dow had also hit its high, its multi-year high, and pretty much an all-time high. Looks like August or September. Okay, what else do we got in the world of news? Let's look over at cryptocurrencies. Some of you might not know this, but you can actually, so you say you need the internet to access the blockchain and Bitcoin. That's not true. A company called Blockstream actually has a satellite where the blockchain can be accessed. And they're working on lightning payments and all that kind of wonderful stuff. that you get in the cryptocurrencies. More news. German stock exchange, second largest German stock exchange in Stuttgart. They're going to now list next year Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, and Litecoin. So you're seeing this institutionalization of Bitcoin, not just in the United States, but also internationally. Regular stock exchange, I'm not belittling them, but it's not just a crypto platform. It's a regular stock exchange that's going to be doing that. Now, one other thing, there was a piece today that was out. Guy's name is Sperry, John, and he's talking about John Huber. Now, John Huber was the guy, the attorney, not a special counsel, not a special prosecutor, just the guy, U.S. attorney, out in, I think he's in Utah. I think he's an Obama appointee, and he was tasked to look into a number of things by Jeff Sessions. And we really haven't heard much from him. He was supposed to appear at Congress on, I think it was last Thursday, and he didn't show up. And that was about the Clinton Foundation. And you had whistleblowers there. And well, apparently this guy's done a little digging. This Sperry guy who wrote the article essentially said that Justice Deputy Sheriff, who never quite rode into town, and he took a swipe at the QAnon stories that people have been holding up their hopes that this guy, this Huber guy, was all part of the plan. It says John Huber has developed almost mythical status amongst the pro-Trump tweeters since former Attorney General Jeff Sessions directed him to investigate a number of issues. And really, he hasn't done much. And I've never believed in that because there's no point in playing coy. You do not allow a special counsel to be appointed. You don't recuse yourself if you're actually defending the president, because the special counsel has created, whether they find anything or not, they have done significant damage to the Trump presidency because a good portion of the country actually believes that he was involved in Russian collusion. And even if he wasn't involved, and they come out with a finding that he wasn't involved in Russian collusion, they have come up with a number of indictments which have nothing to do with Russian collusion, but they are damaging to the reputation of the president. So there's no way it would be any part of the plan for Sessions to allow this to go on, but yet the Q people somehow believe that this was part of the plan. They also believe that not only was Sessions, this is like some type of sting operation, but that he was some type of master prosecutor. And I don't think he ever was. I mean, he recused himself. He allowed the special counsel to be appointed. And then he appoints this guy, Huber, way out in Utah. I mean, out of the realm of anybody. We have all these sealed indictments. Unless you believe the plan was Sessions recuses himself and allows the special counsel to investigate each and everything about Donald Trump and convince half the country that Trump is a traitor with loyalties to Russians, I don't see why that would be part of a plan. And then Sessions does absolutely nothing, and then Trump berates him publicly, and everyone's saying it's all theater because Q says it's theater. Well, it didn't turn out to be theater because he got fired. And then promote this false narrative that Sessions isn't really the Keebler elf, that he's not either a deep state plant or compromised, but he's some type of skilled prosecutor who's going to bring down the deep state, and then you fire the guy. And that's the plan? Well, no, but then you go out there who apparently isn't doing very much. So all this QAnon, Q my mom, I don't know. It's quite possible. I don't doubt that there are people in the government that are against the other people in the government that did a lot of things that they didn't like. But also it's quite possible that QAnon is designed to keep people passive and just trust the plan. While, yeah, we sent that guy out there to Utah and he's just basically out there to drag his feet. And that's what he's done. And so far, he's been a big success. But I don't think that's any part of the plan. But yet that's what people seem to think. So I'm not sure that sealed indictments and you can't stop what's coming. I think that Sessions was at best ineffective and at worst, who knows. All right, well, let's get now into the topic of the evening, which is this bill introduced by Louis Gohmert. He is a congressman from Texas. He's also a former judge, and this bill would change the legal status of social media companies from platforms to publishers. So let's have at that story.
Uh-oh. We got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent.
This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
Okay, let's get at this story. I'll give you some background on, I'm not going to go into all the legalese, but in a nutshell, if a company is a publisher, then whatever they publish, they are responsible for. They can't say someone else did it. They're responsible for their own words. Now, media companies have certain defenses to defamation, whether they're talking about a public figure, the plaintiff has to prove malice, but just stick to the facts that a publisher just can't come out and say someone has committed a heinous crime when they haven't. If they have, then you're just reporting on it. But if they say someone has done something really rotten and they haven't done it, and you insist that they've done it, then they're responsible for it because they're a publisher, and unless they can prove that you actually did it when you didn't, then they've committed the defamation or slander, depending on whether it's written or oral. But if you are a platform as opposed to a publisher, and somebody writes on the platform, not you, but you just open the platform, someone says someone committed a horrible crime and they didn't, you're not responsible for that. You have an exemption if you can show that you didn't know about it and it's just a platform, and once you knew about it, you took it down. That's the general gist of it. So if you're a platform, you have an exemption from this Communications Act of 1934. But if you're a publisher, you don't have any statutory exemptions, but you have a lot of Supreme Court rulings that limit your liability because you may be talking about a matter of public interest, you may be talking about a public figure. So a lot of the defamation and slander rules are toned down a bit because they want to encourage free speech. And still, publishers can be held liable, but platforms, is very hard to hold them responsible because they're not actually making the statement. And it makes sense. You should be responsible and have your defenses if you made the statement, but if someone else made the statement, it's kind of hard to get you in trouble for something else that someone else did. Now, where does that bring in social media? Well, social media claims, let's just use Facebook and Twitter, that they open up the platform, they don't produce any content, you produce the content, so you're responsible for what you say. Fair enough. If that's what it is, then they should have that exemption because they're not doing anything. They're just opening up a platform. It's at the town square. It's like holding the town responsible for somebody going to the public square and then yelling that somebody has committed some horrible crime. You can't arrest the town, or you can't get the town in trouble for providing you with that platform. Now, you can have them ask to remove that person, but that's a separate issue. But it's become apparent to some that Twitter and Facebook don't just provide a platform. They start to edit comments, meaning take comments down, remove people from platforms, shadow ban people so that their content isn't seen, and also promote certain content. So you may get certain content pushed into your Facebook or Twitter feeds that you're not interested in seeing, and yet they see it. They also will curate top stories. They also will select companies that will remove content that they deem to be offensive or hateful. But that's not really providing a platform. That's providing a different type of service. That's acting more along the lines of providing you with information that they deem interesting, or they deem commercially viable, or they deem socially acceptable. So when the New York Times publishes its newspaper, it has a point of view and it wants to present its columns and its news in a certain way. And they're free to do that because that is their First Amendment right. And they have responsibility for what they publish. So if they want to come out and say Donald Trump committed 20 crimes and he didn't, Donald Trump could have a cause of action against them. Their defense would be, well, but you're a public figure and we didn't really have malice against you and we heard a couple of things, so we erred on the side of publishing it. They might get away with that. But if, let's say, they accused me, who's not a public figure, of committing a bunch of crimes and I had nothing to do with it, and I could sue them for publishing the defamation. However, if somebody says those same things about me or you on Facebook or Twitter, you generally can't sue Facebook or Twitter because they didn't say it. So you see the difference. The New York Times is a publisher of information that's not in dispute. Daily News, Breitbart, any publisher is responsible for what they publish. BuzzFeed, those are not considered platforms. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they are clearly publishers, and no one denies that they are, and they can held be responsible subject to the fact that they'll say that they are talking about public figures. They want to have a robust conversation, so you have to weigh the person that they've defamed as, or if they're talking about a matter of public interest, that they're allowed to say certain things. But those are defenses, not they're not exclusions where you're not allowed to sue them. They just have defenses to being sued because they are indeed a publisher. So they choose what's being published, and that's why they have that liability. Now, the companies like Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they claim that they're platforms and they have this exemptions. Now, Louis Gohmert issued a press release early in the week, and it says, this bill removes liability protections for social media companies that use algorithms to hide, promote, or filter user content. I've written a note to Louis, because I don't think it's just about algorithms. They could manually do it. But let's hear what he has to say. He released the following statement regarding the introduction of his bill, H.R. 7363, that amends the Section 230 of the Communications Act of 1934. He says, social media companies like Facebook, Twitter, and Google are now among the largest and most powerful companies in the world. More and more people turn to social media platforms for news than ever before, arguably making these companies more powerful than traditional media outlets. Now, that's true. In fact, the New York Times, MSNBC, Fox News, a lot of these platforms would probably go out of business if they didn't have the ability to access Twitter, Facebook, and Google for their reach. Now, while Facebook, Google, and Twitter technically don't produce content, it's all user-generated, New York Times is considered a user. They generate content, and probably one of the biggest ways that the New York Times gets information out to its readers is not through its subscription service, but to all the content that gets pushed out on Facebook, Twitter, and also in the Google search results. So all the media companies are actually playing second fiddle to the social media companies. So Fox, New York Times, Daily News, MSNBC, CNN will create content, and then they'll rely on to get their traffic through the social media companies. That's what Alex Jones was all about. He may have had people visit his site, just as people might visit the New York Times directly, but a lot of the traffic is going to come from Google search results and social media. Now, the social media companies, he goes on, they enjoy special legal protections under Section 230 of the Communications Act, protections not shared by other media, such as the New York Times, CNN, Fox, Breitbart. They're responsible for what they publish, but the social media platforms are not. Then he says, instead of acting like the neutral platforms they claim to be in order to get that immunity, these companies have turned Section 230 into a license to potentially defraud and defame with impunity. Now, I don't think that's what the issue is. I don't think that Facebook, Twitter, Google are purposely defrauding or defaming anybody. However, what they are doing, it seems, is they are favoring certain content over other content. So there is no defrauding or defaming anyone by pushing a New York Times story, by shadow banning someone they deem undesirable. You're not defrauding or defaming. You may be defaming somebody by booting them off the platform. That's possible because now you're deemed to be persona non grata. Your reputation is harmed because you got kicked off of Google Plus, you got kicked off of Facebook or Twitter. So that might be a type of defaming. Then he says representatives of social media companies have testified in congressional hearings that they do not discriminate against or filter out conservative voices on their platforms. But for all the reassurances, the disturbing trend continues unabated. Employees from some of these companies have communicated their disgust for conservatives and discussed ways to use social media platforms and algorithms to silence or prevent income to conservatives. Now, he's not talking about Patreon or PayPal or any of the payment processors right now. That's a separate issue. They don't have Section 230 of the Communications Act an exemption because they don't publish any content. They can't be deemed publishers. Although it'll be interesting to see if Patreon gets caught up in all this because they have a platform as well. There's user-generated content on Patreon, and they tend to monitor that. Now they're making decisions whether someone can be using their system or not. So they may get caught up in the publisher. They may end up getting thrown in with Facebook, Twitter, and Google, whereas a company like PayPal would not, because you don't post information and content on PayPal or MasterCard or any of that stuff. So keep Patreon involved in thinking about being a social media company, not just a payment processor. And then he says, in one hearing, one of the internet social media executives indicated a desire to be treated like Fox News. I don't know what that means. Fox News does not have their immunity. As we mentioned, Fox News publishes stuff. New York Times publishes stuff. They have no immunity. They have defenses, but they have no immunity. If they say something, you committed a crime and you didn't, they could be potentially responsible, liable to you. Fox News does not have this immunity, and this bill would fulfill that unwitting request. Since there still appears to be no sincere effort to stop this disconcerting behavior, it is time for social media companies to be held liable for any biased or unethical impropriety of their employees or any media company. If these companies want to continue to act like a biased medium and publish their own agendas to the detriment of others, they need to be held accountable. Okay. Let me explain a couple of things, what he's talking about. So shadow banning is definitely one of the things that social media companies can do. So he has a title. This is what the title of the act is. Now, the press release talks about hindering and also promoting content. This only says he wants to amend the Communications Act of 1934 to provide that an owner or operator of a social media service, which could include Patreon, that hinders the display of user-generated content shall be treated as a publisher or speaker of such content and for other purposes. Now, he's got a mistake in the language here. If you hinder somebody from speaking, you shadow ban them, you can't be treated as the speaker of such content because you didn't speak anything. You actually unspoke something. You took the language that person had put in his social media tweet or post or whatever, and you didn't show it. You can't be held as a speaker of that content, so why would you be held liable? What they're getting at, though, is that you're acting as a publisher. You're choosing what to publish and not to publish. So I think this is a bit of a sloppy introduction to say that person shall be treated as a publisher for hindering content. However, when Twitter or Facebook push certain content or curate certain content and publish certain content, well, then again, therefore they are acting as a publisher. They're not holding back on anything. So here's what I came up with, and I sent under that press release that Louis Gohmert wrote. Here's my response to his amendment, which I think it's correct. I think that if you're just a platform, you really don't get involved in the platform at all. You just The only involvement you have is removing content that, see, hate speech is not, that's editorializing, because you cannot define hate speech where everyone agrees. You can have that as a private company, and you can do it, and you could say, I'm going to set up my social media platform, and here are the rules of the road, and this is what I deem to be hate speech. That's fine, and you can, but then you're considered a publisher, because you've made an editorial choice of what you're allowing. Now, here's what I wrote to Louis Gohmert. The First Amendment protects Twitter's right to make editorial choices, whether manual or by algorithm. However, Twitter should be treated as a publisher under the Communications Act of 1934. It looks like the proposed language you have makes them subject to the act, and this is what his proposed language is, or at least this is the title. To amend the Communications Act of 1934 to provide that an owner or operator of social media service that hinders the display of user-generated content shall be treated as publisher or speaker of such content and for such other purposes. I write, it's not just the hindering of content, like shadow banning, but also the promotion of content that would make the social media company a publisher. For example, now I did this on Twitter as a test. No one's really talking about this one, but Twitter seems to select those moments or the trending topics. Now, I remember there was a time when a lot of organic topics would trend, and some of them weren't too flattering. And the way it was done is somebody would come up with a meme, add a hashtag, a lot of people would follow it and would trend. And a lot of them were unflattering to Hillary Clinton, and they were just, some of them were just downright nasty. Well, Twitter figured out that we can't have that, so they allowed it not to be organic trending, and it seems now they either by algorithm or they curate what's going to trend. So generally, any New York Times op-ed is going to hit the trending right away, and they've also stopped showing you almost how many people are clicking on. And then you'll see other things that are trending that they don't put in the trend list. So they've made a decision as to publish what topics they want to show, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, it's not the issue that they do it, it's they say they don't do it, and the reason they say they don't do it is they want this exemption from liability. So, I mean, I think this bill is a good thing, because they should, if they want to promote certain topics and not promote other topics and censor and ban, in some respects, have at it. That's the platform, and the market will either like to use a platform that does that, or they'll decide they don't want to do that. But they'll also open themselves up to being more of a publisher, like BuzzFeed or Fox News or CNBC. They're actually becoming a publisher, and they just have to realize that's what comes with the territory when you decide that you're going to promote or ban certain content. But here's what happens on Twitter. If you look at the recent trending topics, they're all like Trump resigns. They're definitely anti-Trump or anti-conservative, as Louis Gohmert would say. And if you block, but this is the real interesting, not only do they select, if you look in the left-hand column, the topics, they're all anti-Trump or anti-conservative, but what they choose to be the top comments under that hashtag all come from a handful of like 30 or 40 anti-Trump, anti-conservative tweeters. Now, I did an experiment. I blocked and muted all of those accounts just to see what would happen. You will not see their content in an ordinary course, but you will see it the next time there's another trending comment, trending topic. You will see all of those accounts, irrespective of the fact that you blocked and muted them. So in effect, they're basically saying you are going to see this stuff because we're publishing it. You're not allowed not to see it. Now, that is like the New York Times, I write. A publisher publishes a story on its website. You can't choose not to see it. They published it, right? Similarly, when Twitter has trending hashtags and top tweets and they publish them and they appear whether you want to see them or not, even if you don't want to see them because you've actually gone through the effort of blocking them and muting them, they still show up. Well, that to me is publishing. It's not like they allow you to say, well, first of all, they've already chosen the trending topic, either through algorithm or manual selection. And then they've chosen the top tweets, either through manual selection or algorithm. And you can't choose not to see them. You can choose not to see those accounts, and they won't show up in your feed under just the normal course. But they will always show up, whether you mute them or you block them. Give it a try. Go into one of the trending topics, keep a list of them, block everyone in a block, like 30 or 40 of them, mute all of them. They will show up under the next trending topic that's against Trump. So you can't get away from it. And the other thing that they do, which is quite interesting, and I noticed this a long time ago, if you go to Trump's Twitter feed, no matter what he writes, like today he wrote that about the Indonesian tragedy, every comment under there is not pro-Trump or anti. Every comment in there is anti-Trump, no matter what it is. No matter what the comment is. Now, if he's getting political and he's saying rotten Hillary Clinton, or whatever he calls it, crooked Hillary Clinton, X, Y, or Z, well, you'd expect a lot of people to jump in and say, well, you're crooked too. That's fine. But you'd also expect a lot of people to say, you're right, she is crooked. And a lot of people say, no, you're crooked. And that's the typical back and forth. But that's not what you see under his Twitter feed. Every last comment, every one of them is negative. That you can't find. You can scroll down for 10 minutes and you won't find one comment that says, you go, you're right, Trump, you're the best, MAGA. You don't see any of that. All you see is resign, traitor, all that kind of stuff. Now, what you won't see, though, this is interesting, is if you've blocked some of the people that show up, like the big time ones that they have under the trending topics. I guess they missed this in their algorithm. They will always show up, whatever anti-Trump hashtag Twitter comes up with, whether you block or mute them, they will show up. But if you do block or mute them, they won't show up under Trump's Twitter feed. However, thousands of other anti-Trump tweets will show up. Now, I write here, the comments that appear under his tweets are 99% negative. The natural comments in favor or negative on Trump's Twitter feed should probably be like 50-50 or 60-40, even 70-30 for or against. Doesn't matter. But the fact that you can't find a positive comment, I think, is designed to make people think, it's gaslighting, that everyone is against them. And it's interesting. So when he tweeted about the Indonesian tragedy, or he tweets about the Christmas tree, doesn't matter. There's like thousands of tweets calling him a traitor and having him resign, no matter what the thing is. And either those tweets are coordinated, or they reflect a natural animus that a lot of people have. No matter what it is, or whether they're bots, it doesn't matter. You would think that somehow the Twitter algorithm would not somehow come up with every last one of them that you're going to see as negative. So that, I believe, makes Twitter a publisher. There's no way around it, because if you cannot choose to see what you want to see, and you only see negative stuff if you have no choice about Trump, they're publishing that on purpose. If they pick the trending topics, if they push the top tweets from the top accounts. Now remember, there are top accounts on the other side. You don't see the counter to those top tweets. It's very, very interesting. I think the issue is going to be with this Louis Gohmert thing is, I don't think that Louis Gohmert has the political capital to put this through, because he's going to come across as being a conservative who's whining about treatment. And if that's the case, he's not going to get bipartisan support. So I don't know if this is even, and he doesn't even have any co-sponsors yet. And also, I haven't seen, it doesn't look like they've even written the text of the bill. So it seems more like he's complaining, and he's finished complaining at the congressional testimony, and now he's going to file a bill. Now, a lot of senators and congressmen push bills and they never go anywhere. A lot of people get all excited when they see there's a bill. It's almost, the game over and game changer. I've seen so many people get excited over bills, and you look at them and you say, yeah. Like, well, there's one that, to make gold, have a gold standard. Like, that's just one congressman. One first-term congressman. No one's going to vote for it. It won't even get out of committee. And you see a lot of these bills. So, now this one is a big deal because actually he's right. that if you are a publisher, if you're a social media company, then you shouldn't have that exemption. And it's clear, in my mind, it's not based on politics. It's based on fact that they do push certain stories. And again, so does the New York Times, so does Fox News. That's what publishers do. Nothing wrong with that. But they're responsible. They're liable. And actually, social media companies actually harm real journalism. Whatever you think about Fox or New York Times or BuzzFeed or Breitbart, whatever, they actually produce content. And the fact that they rely on social media companies to get their message out is harmful, especially when they don't have the liability and you do. You're the one putting your neck on the line. You're the one creating the stories. You're the one supposedly doing interrogation or investigation, and they just publish it and they get all the money. So, very interesting topic. I don't know where it will go, but we'll definitely follow. Let's see what you guys are thinking over here in the comments. Roger Henley is here. All right, let me just get up. I don't want to stare at that last picture there. What you always want to see on small gold, you want to see some mugs or something. You don't want to just see some language on your screen while you're listening to me go through the comments. So let's get up something a little more interesting. And a lot of people are writing to me that they're getting their glasses and their mugs, and they're all coming through. So that's good to know. You guys are getting your shipments out. I'm making one more shipment tomorrow. I got a few mugs to send out. You won't get them before Christmas. They're 2-day shipping. I think the post office is open. So there's your mugs right there. If it's not open, they'll have to go out on the 26th. But I've already notified everybody that I've got your orders and we're good to go. All right. The drop in the Dow is unsustainable, says Roger. It's been long overdue. Pablo says the manipulation of silver in mugs is unsustainable. Bounce incoming. Roger Henley says JP Morgan has 800 million mugs. It's a fact. They've been buying them on the side. And one day they're going to release, when the price of mug goes up, they're going to release their mugs and make a fortune. Now they're stacking glass now, says Pablo Pena. That's right. Invest in ceramics, says Miser. At Andrew, bounce and what, the Dow? Yes, says Andrew. There are people who think that's possible. I mean, 10% is bear territory, and who knows what these people have up their sleeves. Now, there is an argument that in past days that they wanted to keep the stock market up because the so-called deep state had an interest in doing that. Well, now there's theories that the deep state wants to crash the markets because Trump's involved. So who knows what can happen. I actually believe they have the power to stop crashes. Greenspan proved that in 87, and really we haven't had a prolonged stock market bear market since then. They know through the Exchange Stabilization Fund, the Plunge Protection Team, which they set up in 1987, they can, quote, inject liquidity. They can do a whole bunch of things. They can jawbone. They can, look, they've created this bubble right now. As I mentioned, 25% increase in GDP over the last 10 years, and yet a threefold increase in stock prices. Many stocks in the S&P Dow, not in the Dow, but the S&P and the NASDAQ have no earnings, never had earnings, and yet they have multi-billion-dollar market caps. How is that possible? That's Wall Street pumping, that's Silicon Valley pumping, that's media pumping, that's the central banks buying these shares. That's what's providing the floor. So it's not really a market if you have that type of intervention. And intervention can overwhelm a free market. I don't know why people think, well, at some point the free market, well, that's assuming that is a free market. That's like saying you have good odds at a casino. If the casino can just move the odds off to the side, then you're going to lose, even though you would have won otherwise. All right. Roger, all those mugs are weighing down that sinking Dow ship. Robert Pablo Pena, mugs are the game changer. That's right. American Supertramp says value of mugs are manipulated by the Illuminati elites. Yes, while they sip out of their own mugs. Ann Holloman is here. Gus the Broken. Hi, I finally get to see a live stream. Cheers. Oh, Gus calling in from the Netherlands. Wait till Starlink comes out in 3 years. 7,000 satellites, says Andrew. Terabyte internet. Interesting. All right, let's see. Natalie Merchant Carnival. Oh, he's listening to music. Litecoin hit 534 just now. Well, that's interesting. The Litecoin is moving up. Yeah, 34.51. Whoa, something has just happened. I don't know what it is. Bitcoin over 4,000, 4,050. Ann Holloman, Lewis said the bubble in cryptos may be incoming as the masters blow it up. Well, that's one theory. My one theory is that with all this institutional interest, and they're setting up a platforms by Fidelity, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, Bitcoin ETFs, TD Ameritrade, that one thing that could save, in a sense, if all their profits or all their losses that they're going to have in the stock market is to blow up a crypto bubble. Remember, since 1987, the financial markets have been based on bubbles. They cannot have, like when the stock market crashed and they have the real estate bubble, when the dot-com crash, you have another real estate bubble. When that crash, you have the everything bubble. And one thing about cryptos is they've been proven you can get a good bubble going at them. We saw it in 2017. And Wall Street didn't participate in that at all. So my view is this, and it's not investment advice, it's a macro view. It's not go out and buy cryptos in general, any specific crypto, is that they missed out on the 2017 bubble. They had no ICOs out there. None of them were registered. None of them were Silicon Valley backed. No Wall Street company promoted them, pumped them. You had no... Only media pumping you had was CNBC Fast Money pumping the cryptos, but not specific issues, because we haven't had any ICOs registered with the SEC. But the SEC has a website up, sec.gov/ICO. They want you to register them. So I think all that's coming, and it's nothing more perfect than not having to rely on earnings, not having to rely on income or interest rates for a housing bubble. All you have to do, wow, Litecoin at 35 and Bitcoin at 41.21. Something's going on. Yeah, so I think that they like this kind of stuff. It's like carbon tax because it doesn't cost anything. Roger Henley, just trust the plan, Lewis. Sessions is the checkmate move. SQ. Q my mom. Remember him? Yes, it is my thought. Should I buy or should I wait? Is the question. And Hom, let's see if the gold and silver have pumped. A little bit, just a little bit. Gold is up $4.60 now to $12.60, and silver up 4 cents up to $14.63, which means the unsustainable gold-silver ratio goes even higher. But again, if you want silver to go higher, you actually want gold to go higher first, and that's exactly what is happening. Pablo Pina, Whitaker is the silent boom, trust the mug plan. Now, Whitaker's different. Whitaker and then Bill Barr, they are different, and they may indeed become they may indeed become a thorn in the side of Mueller and Clinton and so on. However, this Q my mom nonsense that Sessions was part of the plan, no way, Jose. Be careful with BCH. Yeah, that thing went up 60% in the last 2 weeks. So you can see, this is my point about the cryptos. They can either be worth zero or they can be worth $20,000, $50,000, $100,000. There's no way at all anyone can tell you they're worth anything. I'm listening to people today. Oh, I think that Bitcoin will go down to maybe 2,000, 1,000. And last year they're like, well, Bitcoin could be $1 million, and I think that Bitcoin is undervalued, and you can see it's going to $10 million. And then you hear, oh, well, we're not finished yet. Maybe you can go down to $3. They don't know what they're talking about, but that's perfect for Wall Street. Because then Wall Street walks in and says, well, hash rate and this, that, and they make up some nonsense. And next thing you know, the ICO is worth more than Tesla, which Tesla's a case in point. Tesla doesn't have any earnings, and they've managed to pump that thing up. Imagine what they can do with cryptos. All right. YouTube has closed down channels. Well, YouTube is the same thing. And YouTube does have a conspiracy against mugs. I'm out here promoting the truth in mugs, and they're out to get me. So you all have to send me money, because this is the most important thing. Because if I can't get the mug word out there, who will? Let's see. Delete subscribers. Yes, I'd have 50,000 subscribers, but YouTube's deleted It's 46,000 of them. So that's the reason you have to send me money. Because otherwise I'd have more subscribers and I'd have more money. But it's all because... I hear some of this stuff. That somehow that... I don't know. I don't want to get into that. All right, let's see. Does anyone here who owns crypto ever think their crypto can be hacked? Well, I don't know why it wouldn't be. I mean, anything that's online can be hacked. There you go. I lost 8 Ethereum on my Ether wallet last year, says Ann Holloman. All right. Let's see. What else have we got? You always hear about hacking. I don't know why you would think that. I mean, it's an obvious thing that can happen. All right, let's see. You guys are talking about hacking, Pilar, all these tokens. All right. Miser, there needs to be a mug platform with censorship only things mug negative. That's right. You're forced to talk positive about mugs. Game changer. Sometimes it's good to hear the anti-mug side, says Pablo. That's true. That is true. No, Pablo, I'm a mug-tard. You will be blocked. Mug. MAGA mug. We should have that too, right? So you're saying nobody should leave home without a mug? Yes. Why do you think they call them mug shots when you get arrested? They're inherently criminal. I was watching a Christmas tour of the White House and the comments were insulting for no reason. It was quite beautiful. Yeah, I mean, but and that's all right. If people, they see something, if they're on 24/7, they have to take Trump down, let them have at it. But I can't believe that all the comments about Trump talking about the Christmas tree are all negative. There's got to be some that say, nice tree, good looking tree, stuff like that. You don't see that. Pablo Pena, I am banned from Small Gold like Acosta from the White House, but later he got his VIP pass. All right, let's see. What is going on here? John Moore is here. Miss Johnny Litecoin, drinking his Hodl Few from his Small Gold mug right now. You must be happy. Small Litecoin at $34.95. Interesting. $34.85, says Ann Holloman. Lewis, do you think they want to move us to a Fed crypto? Is this potential stock market plan crash? Well, that I don't know about that. I think they kind of play it as they go along. But the Fed does have plans. You might want to go back. I have to find the link. I did a whole overview on the Fed's. It's called the look up Fed Faster Payments Initiative Small Gold. I went through, the Fed came up with this 5-6 years ago. They think that the best thing that the Fed can do to combat all this private innovation is to come up with their own faster payments. Just one of the potentials was a thing called FedCoin. And of course, everybody's like, the Fed is planning FedCoin. No, if you look at it, they're looking at like 12, 13 different things. One of the problems with the Fed or any central bank doing a cryptocurrency is it could be very dangerous for them. It can get hacked because it's centralized. And Sweden actually said that if they were to do it, danger would be, let's say Russia invades them, takes them over, then they got control of their entire money supply, and they can't run resistance from there. So they've kind of backed away from creating these national coins, and it seems like the countries that do it are the ones that are hurting, like Venezuela. All right, Lewis, do you think we already said that? Let's see. Pablo Pena, I think there might be a universal coin, a fair playing field. Heard Trump, but not sure what he was saying. Maybe gold. Secret plan. Johnny Moore. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night, says Johnny DeMarco, and to you as well. And I think we're just about done here. Let's see. The only thing I can guarantee anyone about Bitcoin or Litecoin, says John Moore, is they're great for payments. Now, that is true. All this talk about censoring, there's actually a new thing out. No, we're not complete. We're still live. We got to come back here. Okay, the only thing I can guarantee anyone about Bitcoin or Litecoin, says John Moore, is they're great for payments. Now, this is something to bookmark. This is something that I saw the last couple of days. Very, very interesting. It's the thing called, I think it's called BTC server. You set up your own server and you can receive your own payments. I think Gab set this up. So then you're not reliant on payment processors. It creates an invoice And it doesn't go through a payment processor, even a friendly payment processor. It goes peer-to-peer, and you get your money through Bitcoin or Litecoin or whatever cryptocurrency you set up. And you can use someone else's server that they allow you to use, but essentially, no one can shut you down because you have set up your own server through this company. I think it's called BTC server. I'm going to do more research, and I was looking at the website today. It seems very, very interesting because that is a solution. Because when you guys send me money through PayPal, what happens? I lose if it's $2, I get like $1.40 or something. If you buy a mug, they take $1 out of the $20 or the $23. They take $1. It's almost better to send a check, and you know they make a lot of money processing payments. And Bitcoin and Litecoin don't really have those. The miner fees are extremely low. People have sent hundreds of millions of dollars for a couple of bucks. So very interesting to see that get off the ground. They may force it. I mean, if you keep deplatforming people and denying them payments, you're forcing an alternative ecosystem. It's not the smartest thing to do, really. All right. Ann has a loaf wallet. It'll probably wind up in the middle. McAfee's in trouble as it goes up, says Ann Holloman. All right. Pablo Pina, there's 15 likes right now, but shadow banning puts 6 likes. Yeah, I wonder how many likes this has. Yeah, I can't see it, so I don't know how many likes this got. But I'm sure I'm being denied. Okay, let's see. What else do we got here? Can mugs be hacked? No. Mugs are offline. If you follow best practices, you can't be hacked, says John Moore. Problem is people are lazy. Well, that's probably true. Miser says mugs can be cracked but not hacked. Mugs cannot be hacked. Yes. All right, Pablo says Merry Christmas, Lewis. And Mug Pumper sounds like his dog Lucky needs to go for a walk, so he's out of here. Yeah, BTC server sounds great, Ann Holman. I want to do a show on that. It'd be interesting to get. The guy sounds like a Russian though. I want to have him on the show, but I don't want to be accused of being a Russian. Sounds like a very interesting concept. But I think it might run afoul of know your customer rules and stuff like that. I don't know. I haven't done the research. All right, everyone's wishing everybody Merry Christmas and peace. So I'm going to do the same. This is it for, not for the year, but just until I'll be back on the 26th. I'm going to take Christmas Eve and Christmas night off. But I want to thank everyone for joining me, and you enjoy your break. And if you're not taking a break, just enjoy your time away from Small Gold and enjoy your Small Gold mugs, your families, your friends, and we will see you in a couple of days. Thank you very much.